Good day, ladies and gentlemen who are viewing us via various social media platforms. Welcome to the Dr. Fundi Digital Health Platform, whose purpose is to inform and facilitate conversations on various matters that are health related. Today, it's day 7 of the COVID-19 lockdown in South Africa, and I trust that all of you are coping well with the restrictions to your rights to movement. The topic today is COVID-19 as an occupational disease. And our guest today is Dr. Nandipha Khahla, Head of Compensation Fund in the Free State Province. Now, for people who've got clan names, before I welcome them, I first just take them through their clan names as a way of welcoming her. And she knows why I have to call it Shwelezake, Mamicha, Mzondi, Zieka, Tambolenyoga, Elihlaba Bamzondai. So it means you guys, Nibukali, you keep grudges and you hit very hard, when people have crossed your path. But anyway, welcome, Dr. Khahla. I think there's a lot you are going to share with our viewers relating to your responsibility within the Compensation Fund. So to kickstart the discussion, maybe just tell us a little bit. Not everybody understands what the Compensation Fund role is as an entity within the Department of Employment and Labor. Just tell us a little bit about what is the purpose of existence.
Oh, thanks, Bele. You correct me one Buli Sagamnand. Thank you very much, Bele. The Compensation Fund is a public entity which reports directly to the Minister of Labor. Hence, we are classified as the employees of the Department of Labor. It was established under the Section 3A of Public Entity with the main mandate, which is to compensate for occupational injuries and diseases. And that it's a legislated mandate. And I'm not sure if you want to know more.
Yeah, no, just tell, because you know what, this is for the benefit of the people who are out there. For me, because I work in the employee health and wellness space, I've got an idea. But just to make life easy, because at the end, we're going to talk about the notice that was issued, which is part of what you guys are doing. So by the time we get there, I want people to understand, where this all fits in.
Okay, that's fine. As I've said, we compensate for occupational injuries and for diseases, occupational diseases. That is, if you get sick or you are injured in your line of duty, and you happen to be one of those who are our stakeholders, because not everyone who's working is compensated by the Compensation Fund. Okay.
Yes.
I will make an example. For government departments, all we do is to adjudicate for their cases. And it is the responsibility of the head of department, of that particular department, to settle the payments. The bigger municipalities, that is the 7 metros, we adjudicate for them, and it's their responsibility to settle the payments. All private employees who are registered with us, we compensate their employees when they get injured. Then,
so you talk about the employers who are in the private sector?
In the private sector, yes. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
And then we've got our mutual associations. Our mutual associations are organizations like the Rand Mutual Fund, FEMA, and we also have those employers who choose not to be part of a compensation fund, but to have their private insurances, whom will give them their license and say, fine, you can do that. But for FEMA and Rand Mutual Association, for them to operate, they get the license from us.
Yeah.
FEMA is responsible mainly for the construction workers in South Africa.
Okay.
And Rand Mutual Association is for the mining.
Yeah.
Over and above what we do as the compensation fund, okay, let me not leave it half. It's not only that compensation, you know, for occupational injury. We go further because we realize, you know, it does not only stop there. These people, they've got families. Sometimes they get disabled to an extent that they can't even work. So what do? We offer rehabilitative services. If you get amputated and your claim has been accepted that indeed it was in the line of duty, you know, we do offer assistive devices. We've got vocational training, rehabilitation department, where we want to upskill and reskill our employee. Remember, when you get injured, we've got an economy there that is going to lose a skilled laborer. So what we do, we don't want, because of the injury, our economy, you know, it takes, you know, a knock.
Yes, we have a serious shortage of skills in the country. So if everybody got injured, you know, left the system, it would really actually hurt our economy. Yes.
For those who can't work, let's say you suffer now a permanent disablement, and your employer says no, or your doctor says this person cannot work anymore. Okay, we do pay the pensions. If the person happens to die, we do have pay for funeral benefits, and we pay pensions to the spouse or spouses and their kids. I mentioned that, you know,
spouses.
To say spouses, yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Is there a limit on the number of spouses one can have?
No, there's no limit. But I mean, there's a limit in the amount. If it's if it's 8 spouses, what was due to one spouse will be divided equally among all 8 spouses. But they have to be, of course, you know, that, you know, these people indeed, you know, were either were married by customary or civil law to this person. Okay.
Yeah.
And for kids, we pay for their schooling up to the age of 18. We are reviewing that because we know people are coming from different backgrounds. Other people, they can go to school up to the age of 21, but there has to be that proof. We also pay for their universities, but of course, just like any bursary scheme, you have to pass your exams.
Yes.
Okay, if you don't pass, there have to be reasons for you not doing that. But we don't just say, you know, you failed. We look at the circumstances, why this particular child, you know, has failed. And we do refer. I know I've got cases where I've referred beneficiaries who are sort of slow progressors to social services within our departments, because we have what we call public employment services, which has got clinical psychologists.
Yes.
To assess, you know, those kids as to what is really making them, you know, to be slow progressors.
Yeah.
As the fund also, we don't end there. Sorry, it's a mouthful of fund here.
No, it's good, because I think that's the reason why we are putting this platform, you know, available, to just try and create that awareness about the number of things that you guys are doing.
We also have bursaries, bursaries for our beneficiaries, for the skills that we use in the fund. Like now, I know there are students who are doing medicine, who are doing occupational, who are doing orthotics. We know social workers, financial, because by right we are a financial, we are a medical aid. We need those finances, actuary sciences, which we have within our department. Yeah. I think I will end there.
No, I think that's a mouthful. We understand now very well what you guys do. Now, for you, now as the head of Compensation Fund in the Free State, what occupies your normal average day? Obviously, you play a role at a strategic level, But on a day-to-day basis, what are the things that consume your time?
On a day-to-day basis, I won't go into detail on the strategic ones, because I'm
Yes.
everything within the province. You know, we talk about inspector. I'm an inspector. I'm a public. I'm an unemployment. I'm a prof joint. I'm with a prof joint is the provincial joint committees within the province. I'm a part of the minister. I'm Department of Health. I'm everything, but within the fund. For me, is to give advice, because remember, the people that we have in the fund, some of them, they don't have, you know, a medical background. And the documents that they get from the doctors, they are written in medical language, and they can't understand. For simple lacerations or whatever, it's easy for them to understand. But when it comes to complex cases, it needs someone who's got
that medical background.
That medical background, yes. Okay. So what they do, where they are stuck, they will make a submission through medical services. Okay, let me just take you back. At provincial level, we've got claims department, and we've got medical services, and I've got legal services. Because remember, when I say no and you contest, definitely that thing is going to end into an objection. That's what we call, you know, is section 91. Okay, those are the objections. So we have legal. So I get all those documents coming into my office that I have to decide on. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. No, that's quite a lot. So now,
and just to add, within here in the province, on the medical side, we've got professional nurses. We've got case managers, and we've got medical adjudicators, and we've got a disability manager who's an occupational therapist.
Occupational therapist.
Yes, by profession, yes.
So, do you guys meet as this medical committee from time to time? You know.
We've got different committees within the fund. We've got a technical medical forum. We've got a recommendations committee, because remember, I could be biased when a claim comes to me. To decide, you know, if it is a pensionable or not a pensionable, if it is indeed a PTSD, I'll make an example, a PTSD or not a PTSD case. So we do get a seat on monthly basis as the recommendation committee, where we'll sit, we discuss cases, and we come to a conclusions, and we issue awards.
Okay.
We also, over and above that, we have cluster committees. Cluster committees, we've got 3. For instance, Free State is clustered with KZN, and it's clustered with Mpumalanga. And Eastern Cape is clustered, it's Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Northern Cape in one cluster.
Northern Cape,
and the other 3 provinces, which is Northwest, Limpopo, and Gauteng, they form one cluster, where we will discuss. Let's say we've been in a recommendations committee, and we found that as a recommendations committee, this case is too complex. It needs broader minds than consult, you know, as a clusters.
Okay, lovely. Now, let's get back to the reason why I invited you today. I invited you because on the 20th of March, which is just about 2 weeks ago, the Compensation Commissioner issued a notice that was directed, or let me just read the name of the notice. It's a notice on the compensation for occupationally acquired COVID-19 under the Compensation for Occupational Injuries and Diseases Act. So you issued this as the, as the compensation fund. Now I want to know, what was the thinking behind that? Doc?
Oh, thanks, Dr. Nyati. The thinking behind that, COVID, as we call COVID-19,
Yes.
To us, when you look at it and the circumstances, the environment that people,
Yes.
are working in, for instance, we have health workers, we've got
Yes.
who are in the forefront, we've got people who travel,
Yes.
because of their work. And that
Yes.
travel, it could be to countries, that, have got, a
High risk.
high risk, yes. We've got lab workers, we've got ambulance drivers, we've got morgue workers, who are exposed, to all these diseases, that could be contagious or that could be transmitted from human to human. So we look at
Yes.
it and instead we consider TB in health workers to be an occupational disease. The same is going to happen,
With
even
COVID-19.
with COVID-19, just as the same as it happened when we had SARS. Ne?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. That was the thinking behind that. So we
Also,
said,
so you guys
what?
you were proactive. You were
We were
saying
very,
we
very
anticipate.
proactive. Yes, even if when we heard about this, we said, what, this is going to happen. Ne?
Yeah.
And fortunately for us, we don't yet have a reportable, a case that has been reported to us that
Yes.
is linked to an occupational disease. But I know in future, especially with the numbers that we have, with the health workers that are there,
Yes.
this is definitely going to come.
Especially in the context of the shortage of PPEs for all these frontline people that you are talking about. Because then obviously they are at risk whilst the government is scrambling to find PPEs from countries like China and other places. So yes, it's a real risk. In fact, I'm not sure if I'm ahead of you, but about 2 days ago, there was an announcement by the MRC that South Africa has unfortunately lost one of its top professionals, Professor Ramji.
Professor Ramji.
Professor Ramji, yes, as a result of complications of COVID-19, following a trip she had made, to the UK. So if that trip was part of the work that she does, then one would think then that maybe it's a case that might be coming your way, as an organization. But maybe let's not speculate for now, but just looking at it from far, it sounds like a case that is likely to come your way.
Definitely. If you look at the circumstances, if it was work related and you went to the countries that have got that are high on COVID-19, I mean, as you look in our guidelines, if you read our guidelines, you will see
Yes.
that is the traveling is part of it. But there has to be that approval that your employer said you go and do this mandate.
Yes. All right. Now, I think maybe when one looks at, let's say, the healthcare workers, the health professionals, it might be a bit easy. Now, what about guys who are like porters and other, type of support workers within the healthcare environment? How aware are they around these matters? So I think it's much easier when you deal with doctors and other people like that. But for the guys who are non-healthcare workers, especially those who are in the lower levels within the structures, is there a way of making them understand, that should they contract COVID-19, this is what the employer will do for them?
Bele, I must admit, this was signed, on the 20th of March. Circular, it was distributed to all government departments. But having said that, it is our duty, as the compensation fund, to do, those advocacy sessions. On that part, on that space, we have not done, we have not really done enough.
Yes. So there's room for improvement in
There
that
is room for
area.
improvement. Yes, there's room for improvement in that area. Yes.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna say something that's also maybe a bit controversial. When I was still a private practitioner, and then somebody comes and says they are a COIDA case, I would think twice about, taking them, because those days, I mean, this is now 20 years ago, there used to be delays in the processing of claims and all of that, and some doctors would refuse to actually see your cases. So has things changed over the last 20 years in terms of the efficiencies in relating to the claims, especially from medical service providers?
We've just moved into a new system because we wanted to improve our efficiency. Our new system is called ComEase.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, try me. For instance, just yesterday in my province, we paid 913 invoices. It's locked up. And I'm working with skeleton staff.
Yeah.
So there is an improvement on our side. But the challenge that we have is that providers, they don't complete the forms, correctly.
Yes.
Don't submit complete documents.
Yeah.
Because if you want us to accept the claim, you have to give us, all those complete documents. And we know what complete documents are needed. I will make an example. For COVID-19, there have to be what we call a WCL1, which is the employer's report of an occupational disease. There has to be a first medical report in terms of occupational disease correctly completed. There has to be a copy of an ID, and there has to be proof of positive results. There has to be an occupational history which states, exposure. The exposure. In cases where, let's say, someone is classified as a low risk and says that, no, this is from work, there has to be proof of a positive exposure within the work environment.
Yeah. All right.
At least if we have those, if we have, the challenge was that we have, it was the incomplete documents. And the other thing that I had mentioned initially, previously, the people who were dealing with the compensation, with the documented compensation fund, did not have the medical knowledge. So they would grapple, with even interpreting medical reports. And I'm glad to say, all provinces have got the structure, same as what Free State.
As the Free State, yes. All right. Now, so now that's quite good. Now, another experience that one has seen, well, something that I've experienced is that at times, because I work a lot with employers, now at times when somebody reports, that this injury is work-related or this disease is linked to my work, you'd find that maybe the managers within those employers will actually dismiss that person and say, no, it's not true. Now, what is the role of the employer when there is an employee that says this injury or this COVID infection that I have is related to my exposure at work? Are they allowed to actually say yes or no, or should they just be assisting with all the necessary documentation that you guys require for you guys to be the ones that adjudicate on whether it falls within, the COIDA Act or not?
I think the right thing for the employer to do is not to decide. Whether it is, it is work related or not. Submit the documents. Let us adjudicate on the case, on that particular case. I know of a case where employers, they would blatantly refuse, to report a case because they say it does not fall. Employees are by right if the employer refuses to report a case, to report the case to the department, to the compensation fund themselves. So in that case, they complete what we called a WCL CL3, where it's an employee reporting. And what we do, we work very close. You will remember I said initially we are under Department of Labor with what we call the inspectorate, where we'll say to our inspectors, we've got OHS inspectors, which is the Occupational Health and Safety inspectors. We've got this case, the employee the employer is refusing, can you please go and establish this with the employer? If you've got facts, that you know indeed this is an occupational related disease, the inspector can actually complete the employer's report of an accident on behalf of the employee. Yes, and submit it to us, and they follow, you know, the non-complying employer in terms of prosecutions or whatever legalities that they do.
Yeah. Okay. No. Then I'm glad that you know, in cases where there is a difference of opinion between the employer and the employee on whether actually the exposure is work related or not, there is an avenue for the employee to actually take it up, you know, with the department. Now, in a situation where a person passes away, that is, an employee passes away, you know, what happens where the employer disputes, you know, that this is work related? Can the family or the dependents of that person apply, you know, on behalf of that deceased family member?
Yes, they do, and we follow the same avenue where we establish the facts. Remember, us as the employer, we look at the seriousness of the case. A fatality is a very serious thing, and we cannot play with it. So we look at that very intensely. We follow it, and if indeed we find that, you know, even if the employer it says no, but if facts and provide and make, sometimes we want affidavits from people who are working, you know, with this person, whether this person, you know, was really exposed. We complete all those. They complete all those documents. But for cases of fatality, we take that very serious. Even in other cases where it's seriousness. Remember, we are not we are a no fault type of a service. Let's say you get an injury. Sorry to step out of your COVID.
Right.
And that injury, you know, it's severe enough. It's so severe that maybe you lose your arm or a leg or a life. Even if you did not comply, we will look, you know, at the merits of that, because we know according to occupational health and safety, you are supposed to take a responsibility of your health and safety. Your employer is supposed to make the environment safe and healthy enough for you to work. So in those cases, we step back. We step back and try to be empathetic.
Yes. All right. Now, at least there's some Ubuntu there in your approach, which I think is very welcome. Now, there's something you mentioned earlier, Doc, that when it comes to government departments, you have a role that is a bit limited compared to private employers. Your role is to adjudicate, you know, in a situation where there is a claim for either, you know, injury on duty or an occupational disease. Now, my experience with a number of the government departments is that their understanding, you know, of these matters is pretty low. You know, and maybe let me not generalize, but the ones that are, you know, I'm in, you know, that I work with, you find that it takes so long. Sometimes they don't report a case, and only a year, you know, or more, do they actually realize that, oh no, that was a, you know, a case that falls under the COIDA Act. So, is there a way that COIDA, oh, sorry, not COIDA, the compensation fund is actually going on a advocacy or awareness drive, especially in the government sector?
Yes, Bele, we do have advocacy sessions. For instance, I will talk about my province here in Free State, which I believe is the same, you know, even in other provinces. For government of departments, we've got we've got meetings with the Office of the Premier, because all
Yeah.
government and COIDA-related cases are coordinated through the Office of the Premier. So we
Lovely.
do meet often, and
Yeah.
I can tell you that, you know, it is actually, you know, going very well. Where it
Yes.
is still a problem, it's still, you know, with the payments, where they don't, probably us, both us and the government departments, we are at fault, where we'll tell, you know, where we fall short of telling officials that, you know, actually the compensation fund doesn't pay, it only adjudicates,
Yeah.
you know, for
Yeah.
your disease. It's the
Yes.
duty of the
So
department to pay.
now, if a department pleads poverty, what happens? Because remember now, unlike other cases where you are the guys who pay that lump sum and all of that, now in the government situation, the HOD, the accounting office of a department, is the one who has to make sure that whatever that has been agreed to, as you guys were adjudicating, is paid out. So what happens when the department is out of budget?
That's a difficult one, Belen, because that's the reason now why people, they say compensation fund, you know, it doesn't pay. It doesn't pay you. Whereas at the end of the day, if you look at the book value, at the book value of the debt that relates, you know, to COIDA, it's really not compensation fund. It's the money that is coming from all those government departments. I think it's up to the government departments. I won't step into that, but for them to speak with Treasury.
Yes. No, lovely. Now, let's take the same government employee or even a private sector employee, disability or death. Now, most employers would have a pension fund or a provident fund that has got those risk benefits of disability and death. Now, when you guys have paid out, you know, as the compensation fund, does it in any way affect their benefits on the other side from the employer?
Pele, I don't know.
Or it's independent. They do their thing, and you guys, you do your thing.
It's we do our thing, they do their thing. But let me tell you, when we issue an award, let's say you've got a permanent disability or it's a death, we issue what we call a WCL 27, which is which it goes to the employer, and our head office is responsible for generating, you know, what we call award letters, and those award letters, they will be four. One, the original, it will go to the employee. The second one, it goes to the government pension fund. Third one, it goes to the employee, and the other one, it goes to the head of the department. So whatever happens after that is beyond, you know.
It's beyond because you guys will have done your part.
We've done our work.
Yes. Norman, Doc, I think it was quite useful for me also just to have a better understanding, you know, of the role of the compensation fund. It goes beyond just compensation, you know, for injuries and for diseases. You know, you actually care for families, you offer bursaries. So actually, you know, you guys are doing a great job. Now, but I was very impressed with, you know, with this notice, because for me, you don't want any question marks, you know, when people are saying, you know what, we think our family member, or I think I actually got exposure at work. There are very clear guidelines, you know, within your document, and it makes life very easy for anyone who is either an employer or an employee who wants to claim. So for that, I think I need to congratulate the compensation commissioner and all of you guys that work, under the compensation commissioner, because I think it's very good that, you know, such funds are actually proactive. I won't go beyond the compensation fund to other things now about payment for people whose salaries were shortchanged and stuff. That's a different part of the Department of Labor. So I won't, burden you with that. So as the closing statement to people who are working out there who may get infected? What do you want to say, Doc?
First, we have to protect ourselves from being infected in the first place. Use your PPE, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, follow all the rules that you've been given. If you suspect that you could be infected of the disease, report it, have yourself tested, let the documents be completed and submit them to the compensation fund.
Yeah. All right. No, and how long does it take, by the way? You know, do you acknowledge once you've received a claim to say, okay, we've received your claim, it will be processed within this period, assuming all the documents that are required are actually there. They are complete applications.
And with the new system, you know, this new system, it's working, you know, very well. Immediately, yes. I don't even have to write a letter myself.
Yeah.
Once we receive all the documents, the system, it sends, you know, an email automatically to the employer, yes. And the employee to say we've received your claims, we've acknowledged. Once we adjudicate, it will send and tell you your claim is either accepted or it's rejected.
Okay.
So it's something that happens immediately. Once I press that button to say accept or reject, it sends automatically.
Yes, and I saw, you know, as I was going through your document, that the compensation fund had to use an emergency code that was issued by the World Health Organization. You know, for all claims that are COVID-19 related, there's a special code, you know, that has to be used.
Oh yes, that's an ICD code that we have to use on all the claims. It's a it's U07.1. Point one, yes, it's that one. Yes. Please, it makes our lives, you know, very, very easy. As I've said, you know, some of our processors, you know, they are not medically inclined, but just for this one of COVID-19, we've got teams that will deal specially with COVID-19 at head office, where we've got the central COVID-19 team and the provincial level, which is comprised of a doctor, of a nurse, and of a claims processor.
Yes, no, thank you very much, Doc. I think your time with us was quite enlightening. It was very informative, and I'm sure many people will benefit from this. Obviously, we hoping that no one gets infected in the course of their duty, but the reality, though, is that there will be some people who will unfortunately be infected by this COVID-19, and some of them may even pass away. So the 30 minutes or so that we have spent was time well spent, and I want to thank you for your time, and you can go back to your meetings, because I know you've got a number of meetings lined up for this afternoon, but thank you for making time for us. Okay.
Thank you very much, Belen. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. Thank you, Doc.
Bye.
Sure.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.